us going live on YouTube and everything. So how are things with you? Have you been enjoying any of the looser restrictions here in Ontario?
Yeah, it's been a fascinating time. We came back to Canada after 20 years of being away and traveling the world, and we decided to come back smack in the middle of COVID. And it's the shutdown has given us time to sort of work on the innovation that we're doing, but at the same time, you're restricted by the amount of meetings you can have and the people you can meet, and that high speed entrepreneurial culture all of a sudden takes a nosedive.
Yeah, you are specifically like it's manufacturing that you're kind of into now, right?
Well, it was been an interesting story because we're trying to get it to the manufacturing point, but the raw materials aren't even here yet. I mean, we don't even have the raw materials in Canada. And then we've been
That's
trying.
con Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Are there supply shortages all over the world with some of this stuff now, or is it just trying to get things in and out? What are the issues?
Yeah, I mean, the big issue is that we don't have nanoparticles in Canada. It's all imported. And then you face the issue of transportation. Um, so those are some of the hurdles. And then when you do want to order, you want to place an order, you've got to place an order enough that will take you for at least 6 months, because the containers that need to be shipped over, it takes 3 months to get here from a port of destination, a port of export to the port of destination.
Yeah, where is it coming from?
Different parts of the world. I mean, specifically, it's come. Parts of it is coming from India.
And are they having trouble getting stuff out, or is it just the global shortages because we have the shutdown now, huge demand, and no one has anything they need?
Well, then we're going to get. We'll get into the conversation, but nanoparticles need to be processed. So there's science behind it. It's not just go to the minefields and dig up whatever you want and clean it up and bag it and ship it over. It needs to be processed and turned into nanoparticle level. And when you get into that part of it, there's science and innovation behind it, and that takes a process in itself. And then once that's done, then you bag it and ship it over, and then you've formed relationships with manufacturing companies that do the manufacturing, and then there's a science in mixing and matching all the components together. And once that happens, then it's a product ready for market. And that's where our uniqueness is in the marketplace, because not everybody has it, and the amount of high quality nanoparticles is vary from supplier to supplier, and thankfully we've got our own supply chain in place.
Great. I think we'll be talking a little bit about this in a couple of minutes. We're just about to get started. Christopher or Chris?
Chris is fine.
Okay. And Shahabi?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure I have that right. Always good to check. Take a sip and we'll get started.
And if you want my Iranian name, which I'm originally Iranian, it's Shahriar. I'm pretty sure you'll have a tough time with that one.
You're happy to give that to our audience, but yeah, I'll stick with Shahabi. But I'm happy for you to share that.
Sure.
Let's Welcome back to Startup Talk. I'm your host, the Startup Coach, founder of TorontoStarts, one of the largest startup communities in Canada. And with me today is Christopher Shahabi, founder of Creative Oxygen Labs. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Craig. It's great to be with you.
It's great to have you. I'm excited about this conversation. I've got a lot of questions. But first, tell us about Creative Oxygen Labs.
Well, Creative Oxygen Labs was established in December of 2020. And we decided to bring the technology and innovation to Canada, and so that we can build a Canadian brand, that we can build a great innovative product that we can then export to the world. And share with the world some great Canadian innovation. And part of what we're doing is a product that's nano-based particles that can help purify and sanitize the air that we breathe, which is absolutely essential. And the way we do that is we eliminate bacteria, pollutants, and viruses in the air.
So we're going to get into exactly how that works because I've got a lot of questions, but I usually like to start about who the entrepreneur was growing up. Were you a handful for your parents? Were you studious into music, sports, socializing?
Well, you got to ask my parents if I was a handful or not. They'll probably tell you I was. I was always curious. I was always a rule breaker. I was a non-compliant kid, if you can use that word. And I always wanted to explore and sort of see what the world has to offer, and that sort of built my childhood. And the other great thing about my upbringing is that I've had the great fortune of being a citizen of the planet. We've lived in many parts of the world. I'm a first generation immigrant to Canada. And as a result, I've seen the world for its beauty and everything that it has to offer. In terms of my background, I've gone to boarding school in England. I've got my diploma in the Middle East, where I'm originally from. And I went to Simon Fraser University and studied political science. So I was always fascinated by international relations. And here I am, many, many years later, building a business, a company that has global components.
So at what point did you want to be an entrepreneur and run your own business?
That's the million dollar question. For me specifically, it happened right after university. The big question is, are you entrepreneurs born or are they entrepreneurs made? And there's a bit of both. I believe in the entrepreneur's DNA is significantly specific in the sense that they're rule breakers and what we just talked about. Um, but specifically in my case, right out of university, we built our first company with some friends. We got together, and I was fortunate enough to be invited into that team. And we built our first company, and in about a year and a half, Lucent Technologies bought it from us for about $24 million. So I've been on the entrepreneurial bandwagon from when I was 26, and today I'm almost 50.
Well, you're almost, and I would say I'm over that number. So let's not get into. Um, but let's talk about. I like to talk about opportunity cost and that it's infinite. You could be doing any number of things, especially as a serial entrepreneur. I am sure you get all sorts of ideas. One person I interviewed recently, Dr. Jim Fang, called the shiny coin. We have all these ideas that we want to do. So why this one versus any other opportunity you could be pursuing?
Yeah, that's a great question. For the past 20 years, I've been involved in the internet and the software business. I built a digital marketing company that was featured in Forbes magazine. It was $1 million in revenue in 120 days. But then, part of the traveling that I've been doing around the world, I've been to some cities, some countries where the pollution level was incredibly high. And, I actually built Creative Oxygen Labs, or the product, to help myself and my breathing. So we worked on this formula about 3.5, 4 years ago. So it was initially for myself. And then when COVID hit, my family members and my wife spent a couple of days in the hospital, and I felt absolutely helpless. And I thought, I've got to do something. I've got to contribute in some way. And then we tweaked our formula that not only now can eliminate pollutants in the air and the VOCs and carbon monoxides and all those harmful chemicals in the air, but it also can now help break apart these microscopic living creatures, living bacteria and viruses floating in the air, and we want to catch them before it enters our respiratory system. So that was like the pivoting point for me, where I left an industry that I was comfortable in, and I know that everyone's now in the AI world and the software and in that space, and I quickly pivoted to this because I saw an urgency and a need for it. So that's really why we did it. There was a calling, and I wanted to be part of that.
So that leads naturally into what exactly does Creative Oxygen Labs do?
Yeah, so being an entrepreneur, the first thing I think about is how can I build a product where consumers will find it easy to use, it's practical, and we can get it into the market space as quickly as possible. So Creative Oxygen Labs built a product called Oxygen. And what it is, it's a paint additive that you can mix it in a ratio of 1 to 3 into any paint, any water-based paint. It won't work with oil-based paint. So you add it to a water-based paint, mix it, and just apply it like regular paint on the wall. Give it a couple of hours, and once it's dry, within a couple of hours, it'll start cleaning and filtering the air in your room, whether it's in your living room, your study, in your office, in a hospital, a clinic, restaurant, gym. These are the places that can benefit from the oxygen and the formulation that we've created.
So I like to think, we're very privileged sitting here in Ontario. I'm in Burlington. I'm not quite sure where you are. Don't we have, like cleaning the walls and air filters and UV filters and a filter on a furnace? Like, what unmet net need are you really filling and problem are you solving?
Well, again, think of the practicality of it. So right now there are 2 ways that you can really clean. And when we say clean, we're not talking about short-term sanitization. So you've got these Lysol sprays, or you've got various products in the market where you can spray it in the air and it'll disinfect it within for 24 hours. So it's short-term. What we're talking about is a product that will stay on your wall. So right behind you, you've got a wall. Imagine having like a fly trap on your wall, but instead of flies, it catches bacteria, viruses, and pollutants that harm our body and harms our respiratory system. And it's permanent. So it lasts for, let's say, 6 to 8 years. Um, the other product that's on the market are device-based. You have to plug it into a power socket, so you'll need to consume electricity. They have filters, so you'll need to change the filters. And the device has maintenance costs, so you'll need to maintain the device on a 6 months on an annual basis. With us, it's a one-time cost. You put it on paint, you apply it on the wall, and it will do its thing for between 6 to 8 years. That's how long it lasts.
So are you selling to businesses, selling to clients? Who are you going after?
Well, again, my target audience is anyone who cares about their health and well-being, anyone who cares about their respiratory system. And this is the fundamental fact that a lot of people need to focus on, is that a lot of bacteria and infection and pollutants in the air attack our body, attack our immune system through our respiratory system. So we breathe it in, it goes into our lungs, it goes into our bloodstream, it attacks our white blood cells and other vital organs in the body. I won't get into the science and the biology of it, but we wanted to do something where you catch the infectious disease, or you catch the pollutants in the air before they enter our body. We neutralize infectious diseases. We neutralize microscopic bacteria. We neutralize and change the chemical composition of pollutants. And when you've done that, they will become inactive. And so when you breathe in an inactive compound, you will not be affected, or your DNA will be able to fight it and resist it.
So how do you make paint into this magical antibacterial coating?
Well, the coating has what's unique about our coating is that it's made up of nanoparticles. And these nanoparticles are metals, precious metals. And when I say precious, I'm not talking about their monetary value, even though they will there is that element to it. But precious metals in the sense of what they do. So if you look at the elemental chart, there are three major compounds that have antibacterial, antiviral, and antipollutant components. It's copper, zinc, silver. These are the main three. Now I'm going to share a story with you. Back in the ancient days, we all saw soldiers, whether it's the Persian Empire or the Egyptian Empire or the Greek Empire. All of the soldiers used to wear copper, silver, and shields on their body, armor, so on their body, on their arms. There's a reason for it. These metals have a disinfectant capability. So when they would get cut or they would get infected, these metal components would actually shield them, not only protect them against an attack, but unknowingly, it would actually help them heal faster. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution era, people who are working in factories that are with copper or in silver or in zinc, they would have a better immune system than the ordinary person around them. So we took that science, which is ancient science, and we brought it into a paint coating in the form of a paint additive that, again, could quickly immerse itself in regular water-based paint, be applied on the wall, and it would stay on the wall. These are microscopic parts. When we talk nano, we're talking, very, very small particles. So when it's on the wall, it's small enough for when a pollutant and a bacteria touches or comes into contact with it, it'll immediately break up or change the molecular structure. So that's what we did, and we've one of the people who's absolutely a prominent authority on this is Dr. Bill Keevil out of New Hampshire University in England. And if you look at his research, this is back in 2009 when he sort of talked about the impact of these metals. It clearly shows that within minutes, you put the most harmful bacteria and virus on a copper plate, within minutes, all gone. So the science is there, and now it's just a matter of us making sure that the formulation works, it's stable, long-lasting, and it has the results that we were looking for. And I'm happy to announce that McMaster's microbiology lab, when we ran the tests, gave us the green light, and we have the press release. It's on our website for anybody who's interested in seeing the results.
So that was one of my questions a little earlier on. Has the results been validated by a third party? And you're saying yes, by McMaster University?
Absolutely. We've had them, we've had them tested in various countries around the world, but when I came back to Canada, we made sure that we had them tested and verified at the highest level microbiology labs that we have available to us. And it took us a while to find this lab because we're in short supply of research facilities that focus on this area of innovation.
So if I'm in a room, I guess I understand that it's a water-based paint. And so if I'm in a room and the walls are covered properly with oxygen, how does it really clean the air in the room? Does the air always touch the wall? Is that better than the air filter? Like, I would assume air filters moving stuff around. Can you tell me a little bit about, how much volume, say, a wall can actually take out of the air or something equivalent to that?
Sure. So let me put it this way, is that air flows. Air is not constant, it's not static. Whether you have your window open, in your case, the curtains are flowing in the background, air constantly flows. So when air flows, it comes into contact with its surrounding. And if you've got oxygen paint on all of your walls, it's going to hit those walls within seconds. When it does come into contact, it'll begin its process of deconstruction. When you say versus filters, it is a constant location that the air will have to pass through it. So if the air doesn't pass through that canal or doesn't go through the filter, you're not going to get pristine air. You're not going to get purified air. In our case, because it's 360, it's all around you, the air in that room will be clean, pristine, sanitized air, and 24 hours a day.
So obviously, a lot of questions about what kind of virus and bacteria does it kill, and I'd be a fool if I didn't ask the question. What about the coronavirus?
Yeah. So what we've done is we've looked at again at bacteria and viruses that have a direct impact on your respiratory system. The lungs are where we contract. So we're not talking about a cut or an incision on the body, bacteria or viruses going through that, but the way we actually receive these microscopic living organisms is through our respiratory system. So we made sure that Creative Oxygen Labs product, oxygen, is resistant towards bacteria and pollutants and viruses that have a direct impact on our respiratory system. We've matched that, and McMaster's has matched that against the Staphylococcus virus, Staphylococcus bacteria, which is the most lethal form of bacteria that has that can infect the respiratory system and the heart. And again, the data we've put it on our website for anybody who's interested to look at that.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. So who would see the most benefit out of using your oxygen product? Offices, hospital, homes, like Starbucks?
Great question. So again, anyone who is worried about their respiratory system, their immune system, people with immune deficiency, they will need oxygen. People who've got asthma, they'll need oxygen. People who are in close proximity to one another, for example, in gyms, restaurants, hospital in mission critical rooms like surgery rooms, surgical rooms, operating rooms, schools. One of the most important sort of area where we think people can benefit from are making sure that our schools are have oxygen on their room, and we make sure that the air that's in those classrooms are pristine and pure. And then in general, again, the general public, we don't think about pollutants and floating viruses and floating bacteria as being serious because we can't see them and we can't feel them immediately. But again, Bill Keeble and other experts in this industry, they've labeled this as the silent killer. These little particles can cause immense amount of damage if they again go into our body and they attack our immune system. One other thing, Craig, I want to also share with you is the World Health Organization has come out with a report. Their 2020-2019 report has basically said that 4.8 million people die of respiratory infections and illnesses because of contaminated air. Now, if we can help minimize the impact of microscopic harmful substances and pollutants, that's our calling, and that's what we want to do with oxygen.
This sounds like a no-brainer. Is there a catch somewhere?
There's no catch. Again, I built this product, or we formulated this product with a team of experts, with virologists, microbiologists, chemists, and I want to also add, one of our members of our board of advisors is a former NASA JPL engineer. So we've got a member of NASA as part of our company now. And again, whoever is concerned about the well-being of people when it comes to protecting our immune system, making sure that the air that we breathe is of the highest quality, especially in urban cities, which again, the World Health Organization calls toxic cities these days. And these number of cities are growing year on year. We invite that community to be part of us. This is a calling, it's a mission, and we want to make sure that everyone who's concerned about it is part of this movement.
Is it expensive?
Not at all. The cost of it, we haven't finalized it completely, but right now a liter of oxygen comes to $99. So you take $99, 1 liter, add it to a $20, $30 paint. A premium paint is around $40. Mix it in a ratio of 1 to 3, apply it on the wall, and it'll last for as long as you're happy with the color that you've chosen, and so long as the paint is on the wall. So it's really like having insurance in your building for $120. And if you divide that by 6 years, it comes to around $4 or $5 a year.
Is this are people, municipalities, big brands? Is anybody uh, looking at this seriously at that level?
We've got this industry that we're in, the clean tech industry, is at its infancy stage. So there are a handful of players who are involved. We've got companies in Italy, we've got companies in the Philippines, we've got a few companies in the United States who are doing this. But I think the ultimate end game would be the big companies are looking for who the players are in this innovation sector. And probably in the 2 or 3 years, there's going to be a lot of mergers and acquisitions with clean tech companies such as ours.
Do you see brands or hospitals or whatever adopting a standard of using this type of product on all their facilities?
It will become a standard. And so we're trying to work on that model right now of oxygenation. So we want to make sure that any building that in a hospital, they can actually say that our building is oxygenated, which means the standard will be that the air inside that facility is pristine and clean. For the real estate market, any building who is oxygenated, again, is an added value in terms of property value to for a buyer. So again, we want to try and standardize it through oxygen and the oxygenation process. And I think it will be a standard in the next coming few years. There are people who are now working on setting standards. For example, the well health standard in the United States. We've got the standard here in Canada that we're working on, and we're trying to form a partnership with that organization. So yeah, we're going to be part of the standard for sure.
I read on your website as I was doing my research for this interview that it removes odors from the air. How does that work versus traditional air fresheners or something like Febreze?
Yeah, again, so the same concept is uh, odors are chemicals. So again, it'll deconstruct the chemical compound when it comes to odors. It eliminates molds, the VOCs, pollutants in the air. Same kind of reaction. It's a matter of breaking apart the molecular structure that creates odor. In our case, we're talking about negative odors. Um, what the sprays do is they don't eliminate or they don't break apart the molecular structure. They conceal it. So the odor is still in the air, but it's concealed with another odor, and that's a short-term effect. So once the spray that you've put in, let's say lemon fresh smell, and once that sinks and drops down, the odor, if it's still there, you'll still smell it. But in our case, again, with floating air coming into contact with the wall, molecularizing the chemical compound, you will not have that odor smell staying in that room or space that you're in.
You mentioned about 6 or 7 years, I believe, that it lasts. I'm not 100%. There's a range there. Uh, I guess that gives people an excuse to repaint and redecorate every few years. If we paint my whole house, do we have to do it every 6 to 7 years? That doesn't, or a room every 6 to 7 years doesn't seem too bad.
Well, the average length of time where people do paint their home is about 5 years. Um, but again, if you're happy with the paint that you have, and you're happy with the color that you've chosen, and you don't feel like adding another coating to it, this product will work a lot longer than 6 to 8 years. But for the sake of people feeling comfortable, we're saying it's 6 to 8 years. But the truth of the matter is, these are minerals. So nanoparticles we're talking about are minerals. So long as it stays on the wall and it's not scraped off, it'll still be active and it will still perform the way it should. So in terms of lifespan of the product, so long as it's not scraped off, it'll consistently work.
That's great. What types of surfaces does it work well on, and which ones doesn't?
Yeah, so the best surfaces are dry walls, cement walls, but all of them need to have a layer of primer. So you stabilize the surface, and then once it's stabilized, you apply the oxygenated paint as if you're painting with regular paint that you're happy with and the brand that you trust and it appeals to you. Uh, and then you apply it on the wall. So we recommend that you apply the oxygenated coating as your last layer. So you can initially paint the wall with any paint that you're happy with, and then the final touch, you can apply it with the oxygenated coating. And again, that will stay on for as long as the user is happy with the color that they've chosen and with the product that they have on the walls.
We were talking before we got started about supply chain issues. Um, is it available now? If not, when? And like, can we say that? I know there's worldwide supply chain issues with resin and all sorts of things.
Yeah, so that's a great question because the nanoparticles need to be manufactured, and there's a lot of suppliers who claim to have the nanoparticles, but they really don't. They claim to have the nanoparticles in the sizes that we need and we use in oxygen, and they don't. So we have our own supply chain, and I'm happy to make this announcement that A to Z of the supply chain is controlled by oxygen. So in terms of standard, we know exactly what we're creating, what we're manufacturing, and what we're offering to the market. In terms of being available, it's not available as of yet. Um, we are looking at probably November or December to bring the product to Canada and make it available on the shelves.
By Christmas, that's excellent. Everyone talks about hustle. So, what are you doing to get traction and build your audience and make awareness so people know that this is coming and they should be ordering?
Oh, we come on your show and we talk about it. I mean, that's the first activity. We talk to people who are interested in this area of clean technology and clean tech. We talk to people who are concerned about their health and well-being. We have put the most amazing high-level board of advisors, people from former members of NASA who helped land rover and Curiosity on Mars, to doctors, microbiologists, virologists from in Canada as well as the United States. We talk to the community. We're building an ambassadorship through a crowdfunding that we're doing, and we decided deliberately to go that route versus going to VCs, is because we want to raise the capital that we're raising through people who are interested and who are concerned about this aspect of life, which is clean air. And whoever is investing with us, is we consider them as an ambassador and an advocate, and part of our cause and our mission. So that's how we're doing it. And the third component is we're working through manufacturing and distribution partners who can get the product into the markets that they're in. And we're signing licensing agreements right now with a number of countries. We're discussing with Scandinavian countries, and we're discussing with Turkey and Singapore, the United States, and Mexico.
You mentioned equity crowdfunding. You recently launched your campaign on Equivesto. Can you tell us about your what's happening there?
Yeah, when we were looking at our fundraising strategy, because again, this isn't something that can be done with, one investor or two. It really it has a an infrastructure of partners that need to get involved. And the beautiful part about this business is that it's cash flow positive from the minute we manufacture and get the product into the market. But with Equivesto, I was delighted that we've got such an infrastructure in Canada now. It's ideal for startups or companies who are not on the investor radars immediately, and maybe some investors are not interested in this area right now, even though they will be in a couple of years. It was the right move for us to again go grassroots, get the community behind it, get the community involved who are concerned about their health. And they're not only buying shares in the company, becoming a stakeholder, but we've bundled the product in a way where you invest over $250 with us. We'll give you a liter of oxygen for free. And you invest $500 with us, we'll give you 3 liters for free. And if you invest $1,000 with us, we'll give you 2 gallons for free, and you can paint a good portion of your home.
Well, that sounds great. And what's the minimum investment so people can get started?
Well, the minimum investment is you can invest as little as $100, but again, to get the product in your hand, the minimum investment is $250.
So you can invest in your company, Creative Oxygen Labs, for as little as $100 on Equivesto. But if you incentivizing people to invest a little bit more, and they get a free supply of oxygen, and they can paint, whatever it is they want with it, and start living a cleaner air life right away.
Absolutely. So I don't know if you can see this, but there's a big painting behind me. So the other thing I didn't talk about is you can take oxygen and put it on a very large painting and get creative. You don't have to be an artist. You can just splash away, put the paint on this canvas, and hang it on your wall, and that too will again purify the air. So it's not only just paint on the wall, but you can also add an artistic element to it, use it as in the form of a painting, and put it in your home. And again, that will do the trick as well. The whole idea is making sure that we get air that's flowing in a room to come into contact with our oxygen formula. And we've done it in both ways, on the wall and in the form of paintings.
That's good to know. If people are interested in learning more about investing, where would they go?
On the
Just
Equivesto
equivesto.com?
on the Equivesto website. That is where we're making our offering. So it's, if you go to the Equivesto portal and look at their offerings, we're on that page, and we've explained everything in detail from the cause, why we're doing this, to the product and its value. Our financials are there, and the team of experts that are working with us. Everything is very transparent and clear. And again, we encourage people to get involved more so for their own health, for the health of their loved ones, and to also be part of our mission, because we want to make sure we take brand Canada global, and we want to oxygenate the world as much as we possibly can and as much as we can manufacture.
I like to share both successes and failures, so there's a chance that someone listening might not make the same mistake. Since you're a serial entrepreneur, you can take this from Creative Oxygen Labs or any other company. Can you tell me a time where you screwed up and made the wrong pivot or startup decision?
Yeah, the one of my screwing up experiences is, uh, and I share this with all entrepreneurs who are interested, is geography matters. So you have to make sure you make the right investment in countries that have the legal framework to protect intellectual property. So if you invest in an innovative idea, but the laws are not there to protect you from an IP standpoint, you could lose royally. So that's one thing I would really caution anyone who wants to invest in starting a business, especially when there's a lot of IP involved.
Good advice, and I might as well do this now. I noticed on your website one of your advisors or on your team was Alex Koch of Insight Legal. She's fantastic. Since you mentioned IP and law, I thought I'd throw that in there. She's a great startup lawyer and working with our community, mentor startups in our community all the time. Um, do you recommend there's tools that you would recommend for startups that you think that you and your team use or that you'd recommend?
Tools like what sense?
Like Slack or Trello, or I'm always talking about new stuff with startups to get them more, whatever you're using.
Yeah. So that's a fantastic question again. We work with 3 continents. So we have a distributed, what I call the distributed working model. And many big companies have been doing this for decades. And small companies, innovative companies, nimble companies need to exercise and get involved and do um, take advantage of global resources. So the minute you get into that area where your engineer is in one country and your graphic designer is in another country and your chemist is in another country and your natural resources are in another country, you need to use tools that bring everyone on the same page. And you mentioned Slack. We do use that. We use communication tools that are absolutely high speed. So WhatsApp is a tool that we use for our communication. Zoom is another amazing tool that people use. So every bit of it is used for a specific function and a specific purpose. Slack for project management, um, and then Zoom for communication.
Great tools. What's your favorite book for entrepreneurs?
I like Richard Branson's "Screw It, Let's Do It."
I
So
have not read that one.
yeah, he wrote a book. That book, I think, 12, 13 years ago, and the message is, if something in your belly and in your heart says that it's something right for you, and then you should take action on it, screw it, let's do it.
It's great advice. Do you have any tips for founders that are just starting out?
Don't be afraid of failure. Failure is your biggest asset, which is something the universities will not teach you. No MBA class will teach you. Don't be afraid to take risks. Um, and then through those risks that you take, you will learn immense, incredible, invaluable lessons. And over time, we call it experience. So gain as much experience as you possibly can, because entrepreneurship is not a one shot deal. Um, Contrary to what Silicon Valley tries to preach, it will take time, but learn to play the long game. And to successful entrepreneurs, play long, don't play short, because if you do, the short term will lead you to nowhere. It's the long game, building, investing, building connections, building a product that has longevity. That's the real winning ticket.
So, what is next for you and Creative Oxygen Labs?
Well, the next step that we're on the 30-day mission or 45-day mission right now is to raise our first $500,000. And I will say this, Craig, that once we have done our first round, which we're looking to raise about 1.5 million, this offer will not be available to the public anymore, because this is an organic based business. We're manufacturing, we're selling, we're reinvesting into the company, and that model um, is enough for us to grow the company. So whoever is interested in clean air technology, contribute, become part of the cause, invest with us today, because the opportunity won't be available and once we've hit our target. And the rest of my life is committed to sustainable innovation and sustainable products and services that we're going to be working on at Creative Oxygen Labs. This is just the first product that we're focused on in terms of clean air and pollution, which is is something absolutely vital, and but nobody's talking about it just yet. But they will be in the coming years.
Where can people go to find out more? Where's your website, social media? Where are you?
Yeah, our website is where our information is posted on. So creativeoxygenlabs.com, and we are starting to build up our social media communication um, outlets on Instagram. Creative Oxygen Labs on Instagram, also Creative Oxygen Labs on Facebook. So these are the three outlets where we communicate with the public.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today and telling our audience all about Creative Oxygen Labs and your oxygen paint, which sounds fantastic. I'm looking forward to looking at following your Equivesto equity crowdfunding campaign and your success in the future.
Thank you, Craig. It was great to be with you, and please spread the word. Let's get the funds raised so that we can bring this product into the market.
I will do my best, and thanks for being here.